If you think a dog and 3 kittens can't become a family, just wait until you meet Rex. One autumn afternoon, 8-year-old Rowan Blake was simply walking through the park like any other day. But what she discovered beneath that old oak tree, a motionless German shepherd, shielding something under its body, would bring an entire town to a standstill. What seemed like a small, quiet story would unfold into a profound journey of sacrifice, unconditional love, and a mission that transcended the boundaries of species. The autumn sun cast amber light through the blazing red maple leaves, painting shimmering rays along the leaf-strewn path in Riverside Park. Rowan Blake, an 8-year-old girl with intelligent brown eyes and a neat bun at the nape of her neck, was hurrying along her usual route to Grandma's house after school at Jefferson Elementary. That Tuesday afternoon was just like any other, but deep inside, Rowan felt something was off. Her steps slowed to a stop when her eyes caught a strange figure beneath the ancient oak in the center of the park, the one she always called the giant who keeps secrets. A massive German shepherd lay there, unmoving. Its thick black and tan coat shimmered like velvet in the sun. But what drew Rowan's attention wasn't its majestic appearance, it was the absolute stillness. No reaction, no head lift, no tail wag, not a single twitch except the faint rise and fall of breath in its chest. Many grown-ups walked past. None stopped. They merely glanced and assumed. Probably just napping. But Rowan wasn't like those grown-ups. She had grown up alongside her father, Dr. David Blake, a veterinarian, and had witnessed all kinds of animal expressions: pain, fear, joy, and despair. And she knew that dog was not taking a nap. It was collapsing. Ignoring the instinctive fear, Rowan crept closer. "Hi there. My name's Rowan," she whispered, her voice as soft as the wind. No reaction. She crouched, keeping a safe distance as her father had always taught her. Then she froze. There was something underneath the dog. A tiny movement. A faint mule, trembling and weak, rising from beneath the thick fur. Rowan's breath caught. She leaned in. The sunlight angled through the leaves, and in that moment, her heart nearly stopped. Beneath the dog's shielding body were a litter of kittens. Tiny, shivering, their eyes not yet fully open, being protected by every last ounce of strength from a giant creature on the brink of collapse. Rowan's mind reeled. She couldn't believe it. A dog, a species long seen as the natural enemy of cats, using its own body to shield 3 fragile beings of another kind. Her throat tightened. A cry escaped her lips, not of fear, but of awe, disbelief, and understanding. And that very moment would become the beginning of a chain of events that would change Rowan's life, touch the entire Millbrook community, and maybe, just maybe, the world. Rowan's scream tore through the stillness of Riverside Park. Pigeons burst from the treetops in a flurry. A woman pushing a stroller nearby spun around, alarm in her eyes. But before anyone could react, Rowan had already dropped to her knees beside the dog. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you," she whispered. Her voice trembling but steady. Her hand reached gently toward the ground, maintaining a careful distance, as if some instinct warned her that a single wrong move could shatter everything. The German shepherd, who she would later name Rex, slowly turned his head. His eyes blinked open, cloudy with exhaustion, yet lit with something that made Rowan catch her breath. In those eyes, there was bone-deep fatigue, wariness, and pain, but more than anything, there was something few had ever seen in an animal's gaze: trust. Trust in the 8-year-old girl sitting before him. Rex let out a soft whine, not a growl, not a warning, but a plea. A sound cracked open from the deepest part of him, as if he had endured enough and could no longer carry it alone. Rowan bit her lip, fighting back tears. Beneath Rex's body, 3 tiny kittens huddled together, trembling in the crisp autumn chill. One jet black, one smoky gray, and the third a pale golden cream that glowed under the amber sunset. They mewed softly weak cries, but enough to melt Rowan's heart. And in that moment, she understood. Rex wasn't a victim. He was a protector, a solitary warrior who had given everything he had left to keep these fragile little lives alive. She didn't know how a dog could care for kittens, but with the instinct of someone who understood animals and a heart that knew love, Rowan realized this was a hero no one had noticed. She pulled out the emergency phone from her backpack, fingers trembling as she dialed her father, Dr. David Blake, the town's veterinarian. "Dad," Rowan said as soon as his voice came through, "I need you here. Now. There's a dog, I think his name should be Rex, and 3 kittens. He's protecting them, but I don't think he can hold out much longer." On the other end, David's voice went low and serious. "Where are you, Rowan?" "Under the big oak in the park. I'm not leaving them." She ended the call, then sat back down beside Rex, not touching, not intruding, just being there. And in that instant, as the golden light of dusk spilled through the branches, a silent bond was forged. A girl, a dog, 3 kittens, and an unspoken promise. From now on, we are no longer alone. The last rays of sunlight melted through the canopy, giving way to the crisp darkness of dusk. But beneath the old oak tree where Rowan sat quietly beside Rex and the 3 kittens, a small flame had been lit, the flame of compassion and courage. Rowan glanced at Rex. Though the large dog's body had begun to tremble from exhaustion and cold, his gaze never strayed from the 3 tiny lives curled beneath him. Each time one of them shifted or let out a faint meow, Rex would rouse himself slightly, adjust his position, and gently lick their backs, the way Rowan had only ever seen a mother cat do. Her throat tightened. How could she even begin to understand this? A dog clearly male, instinctively licking to stimulate, keeping warm, protecting kittens, like a true mother. She leaned in close, whispering into Rex's ear. "Who are you? How do you know how to do all this?" Rex didn't answer. He only panted heavily, but his eyes sparkled each time one of the kittens stirred. And Rowan realized this wasn't the first time Rex had done something like this. The way he stayed alert to sound, the way he positioned his body to shield them, his unwavering patience, these were learned behaviors hardened through repetition. He had saved fragile lives before. And now Rex was on a nameless mission. No master, no slogan, no one to witness. But still, he continued. Because he couldn't not. Suddenly, the sound of urgent footsteps echoed through the park. Rowan looked up to see the familiar silhouette of her father, Dr. David Blake, veterinarian, sprinting toward her, his assistant, Kira, close behind. He dropped to his knees without a word. The eyes of a man who had seen hundreds of emergency cases were now filled with disbelief. "My God," he murmured upon seeing the 3 kittens and the protective posture of the dog. "You weren't exaggerating when you called." Rex let out a low growl as David reached forward, not aggressive, but a warning. Rowan placed a gentle hand on Rex's back, whispering, "It's okay. They're good people. I'm here." At that moment, Rex looked at her, a look that handed over trust. He exhaled, lowered his head to the ground. Permission granted. Kira carefully lifted each kitten into a thermal carrier. They were far too small to survive the night without specialized care. Rowan clutched her father's hand and looked up. "Can you save them all?" Dr. Blake nodded, but his eyes remained serious. if we get them back in time, and if Rex lets us help him too. Then the unexpected happened. Rex forced himself up, staggered forward a few steps, and walked toward the emergency vehicle on his own. No one called him. No command was given. Just the quiet resolve that it was time to pass the torch. He turned back to look at Rowan as if to say, "I trust you. Help me finish what I started." And just like that, the nameless hero stepped into the vehicle beside the three fragile souls. A new journey had begun, not only to heal broken bodies, but to uncover truths that would challenge everything people believed about loyalty, instinct, and the miracles love can make real. The rescue vehicle came to a stop in front of Riverside Veterinary Clinic, warm light spilling out from inside a sharp contrast to the cold, quiet mystery that Rex carried with him. Rowan was the first to step down, eyes fixed on the thermal crate, holding the three kittens. But it was Rex's gaze that held her attention the most. It wasn't simply a look of gratitude. It was the gaze of a warrior who had lived in darkness, now suddenly finding refuge after a long, endless journey. And in that gaze, there was something Rowan, only 8 years old, could clearly sense a secret. Dr. David quickly lifted Rex onto the exam table. Despite his exhaustion, the dog didn't resist. He only looked up at Rowan, as if she was the only person allowed to touch the wounds buried deepest. "No microchip," Kira murmured after scanning. "No one knows who this dog belongs to. There's a tag on the collar," David added, frowning, "but the information is outdated. The phone number doesn't work, and the address is a long abandoned house." Rowan stood beside Rex. Her hand gently brushed over his thick fur, now matted with dust and mud. She could feel the calluses on his paws, signs of a journey far longer than any stray might take. "Dad," she whispered, "I think. Rex has cared for other animals before, not just these kittens." David froze. He had witnessed countless touching moments between people and animals, but a dog wandering the world, saving fragile lives, Rowan continued. "He's not alone. He carries purpose." As Kira cleaned Rex's wounds, she found strange details. Beneath the fur around his neck were faint scars, not from accidents, but the marks of ropes or specialized training collars. His abdomen showed light swelling, not critical, but signs of prolonged stress. But most telling of all, when Kira gently brought a cotton towel near his ear to clean the dirt, Rex instinctively tilted his head. Left raised one paw, a precise, trained reflex. David nodded slowly, his voice low. "That's a trained reaction, just like the dogs from search and rescue units. This isn't a regular house dog," Rowan murmured. "Rex was a hero once. When Rex and the kittens were placed in a special observation room, Rowan begged her father to let her stay the night. She laid her sleeping bag next to the kitten's enclosure and watched quietly as Rex finally drifted into a deep, exhausted sleep. Near midnight, Rex began to stir. He whimpered softly, his legs twitching in the air, a dream, but not an ordinary one. Rowan sat up quickly, rushed to him, and placed a hand gently on his back. And then for a moment Rex's eyes opened. Panic, vigilance, then calm when he saw Rowan. That look carried an entire chapter of his past. No words were needed. Just that look told Rowan Rex had lost everything. And instead of giving up, he chose to keep going by saving lives even smaller than his own, like the kittens. When Rowan fell asleep again outside the clinic, an old SUV pulled up in the shadows. From a distance, a tall man stepped out holding a faded photograph of a dog that looked exactly like Rex standing next to a young girl with kittens in her arms. The man stared toward the light spilling from the Riverside clinic. In his hand, the image had aged with time, but the dog's eyes, those eyes were unmistakable. The sky over Millbrook the next morning was draped in a thin veil of mist, soft as silk, making the sunlight through the clinic window pale and still. Rowan woke up to find Rex lying silently next to the kitten's crate. The 3 tiny cats were still sound asleep, curled up like little flames nestled in soft towels. She stretched, glanced at the clock, then quietly stepped closer to Rex. The dog opened his eyes, blinked slowly, and when he saw Rowan, his tail gave a slow, gentle wag. No words were needed. They understood each other. The doorbell rang quietly, but with a weight behind it. Dr. David opened the door and froze. Standing before him was a tall man. In a dark coat, eyes sunken, and rimmed with fatigue, as if he hadn't slept for nights. In his hand, he held a photo old creased and faded. "I'm looking for a dog, a German Shepherd," the man said hoarsely, eyes scanning the room behind David, as if searching for a lost soul. "Who are you?" David asked, his tone cautious. "My name is Tom Hastings," the stranger replied. "I used to work with a volunteer animal rescue unit, disbanded after an accident. I think my dog has come back here." David looked at Tom, then at the photo. It was a peaceful scene. A young woman sitting on the porch of a wooden cabin, a large German Shepherd by her side, and kittens playing at their feet. The ink beneath the photo had smudged, but one word remained legible: Rex. When Tom stepped into the clinic, Rex was lying still. But the moment the man's footsteps echoed, the dog's entire body stiffened. He lifted his head, eyes wide, locked onto the newcomer. Rowan, sitting beside the kittens, froze. She looked from Rex to Tom. Rex's eyes shifted from caution to confusion then. He slowly rose and walked toward Tom. Not a sprint, not a joyful tail wag, but the careful, deliberate steps of someone whose heart had once broken, now needing to confirm if this was real. Tom knelt, arms opening slowly. "Rex, if it's really you, then I'm sorry for leaving you behind." A moment stretched long as a lifetime. Then Rex leaned in, resting his head against Tom's chest. The man collapsed forward, burying his face into the thick fur, unable to hold back tears. Rowan watched quietly, fingers gripping the edge of the table. She didn't fully understand, but she knew. This was the pain of reunion, and the weight of unspoken things. In the softly lit room, Tom began to share their story. "Rex isn't just any dog," he said, his voice catching. "He once belonged to a special rescue unit, not military, not police, but animals trained to find the forgotten. The small, the weak, those abandoned by the world." Tom paused, gently smoothing the old photo. "There were 8 of us, each assigned to a region. Rex was the only dog, but he worked like 3 people combined. He didn't just find animals, he cared for them, taught them to play, warmed them when they were near death. And then one day, disaster struck. Our central shelter caught fire. All our records, data, identities. Gone. We disbanded. Rex disappeared. I thought he died." His gaze turned to Rex, now lying at Rowan's feet, but he didn't vanish. He kept going. For the first time, Rowan felt fear, not of Tom, but of the possibility that if this man was Rex's former owner, would he take him away? She stepped forward, kneeling in front of Rex. The dog turned to her, licking her hand softly. Tom saw that and gave a bittersweet smile. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "I'm Rowan," she said, "and I don't think I can live without Rex anymore." Tom nodded slowly. "Rex always goes where he's needed most. Maybe that place now is with you." The gray sky cast a heavy shroud over Millbrook, like a thick blanket pressing down on the town. In that cold and somber space, the Riverside Clinic became the only place that radiated warmth, not just from the lights inside, but from what was unfolding between humans and a very special dog. Rowan quietly folded the towels that had been used to keep the 3 kittens warm while Rex lay close beside the crate, eyes open alert. Tom, the man from the past, had not left, and something in his gaze kept Rowan from feeling at ease. In the back office, Dr. David Chen and Tom Hastings sat across from each other. The door was ajar, but Rowan could hear every word echoing through the hallway. "You said your group was destroyed," David asked, his tone calm, but laced with skepticism. Tom nodded. His eyes shadowed with old grief. "We used to call it Dark Domestic Animal Rescue Corps, not government registered. We operated on trust with a network of vets, firefighters, and volunteers. We specialized in abandoned animals in disaster zones and small-scale war regions. But then, a failed mission in the northern mountains burned everything down." David frowned. And Rex was the best embodiment of dark. He didn't just rescue, he nurtured. He once protected 3 lambs in a freezing cave for 3 days, taught a group of orphaned ducklings to find water, and the last time I saw him was when he ran back into a burning house to save a mother cat that had just given birth. He didn't come back, until now. Tom pulled a small notebook from his coat and opened it. Inside was a map with red circles marking places: Mountain View, Hollow Creek, Forest Junction, and finally, Millbrook. "After the fire, I heard whispers, legends," Tom said. "A stray dog rescuing 3 fallen chicks. A German shepherd seen rummaging through trash not for food, but for cotton and old blankets to warm a nest of kittens." He looked David straight in the eye. I followed the stories, and they all led here. Dr. Chen decided to run a highly sensitive biological test, analyzing Rex's hormonal and endocrine traces. The results made him stand and take a step back. Rex, once lactated, what Tom stammered. David nodded, eyes pensive. "It's extremely rare, but it has been documented. It could result from overwhelming loss or a bond so profound it triggers a parental response across species lines. Rex had once nursed kittens with his own body." Outside, Rowan couldn't hear everything, but when Tom emerged, she saw that his expression had changed. No longer sorrowful, but renewed with a sense of faith. "You know," Tom said, sitting beside her, "Rex doesn't belong to a place. He belongs to the creatures who need him the most." Rowan looked at Rex, then gently laid her hand on his head. "Then, if I promise I'll always need him, will he stay?" Rex glanced at her, then extended his tongue to softly lick the back of her hand. The answer was unmistakable. Before leaving the clinic, Tom handed Rowan an old necklace, within it a small etched tag bearing the image of a dog standing within a circle of 3 animals: a cat, a rabbit, and a bird. This was once Rex's ID tag, the symbol of dark. Maybe it belongs to you now." Rowan clutched the gift, feeling a piece of history and responsibility settle into her hands. Rain began to fall steadily over Millbrook from noon. The light drops slid across the tiled roof of the Riverside Clinic, forming a soft background melody for an otherwise gloomy afternoon. But inside, no one paid attention to the weather anymore, because everyone was caught in the middle of a decision that no one dared say aloud. Where would Rex go? And would he stay on the faux fur cushion, placed right beside Rex's bed? The 3 kittens, Hope, Faith, and Courage, had begun to open their gray-blue eyes and take their first tentative steps. Every time one of them let out a tiny mewl, Rex would immediately lift his head, perk his ears, and gently nudge his nose into the crate to check. Rowan watched this for hours, her heart softening each time Rex licked the cheek of a kitten that had nestled up against his belly as if he were their real mother. "He's all they've got, Rowan," whispered to her mother, Evelyn. Blake, who had just arrived at the clinic after hearing news of the four-legged hero. In a corner office, Tom Hastings was speaking quietly with Dr. Chen. His voice was low and heavy. "I think Rex should continue his journey. There are places that need him, like the abandoned animal shelter in Hollow Creek, where young animals were left behind after the flood." Dr. Chen didn't reply immediately, but Rowan was standing just beyond the door. That sentence struck her like a blade to the chest. Rex was leaving. That evening, Rowan asked to sleep at the clinic. She lay down right beside Rex and whispered, almost as if speaking to herself, "If you go, who'll take care of the kittens? If you go, what about me? Who'll look at me the way you do? Like I can do anything." Rex didn't answer, but his eyes, deep, endless, shimmering like rain reflecting the dim light outside the window, gave the girl a strange feeling he wasn't sure either. Just before dawn, the clinic phone rang an emergency call from the local fire department. An abandoned house on the outskirts of town had collapsed due to a mudslide. The caller reported hearing animal cries from within the wreckage, but rescue crews couldn't identify the source. The entrance was too dangerous. Tom Hastings immediately turned to Rex. "Are you ready?" "Warrior." Rex raised his head, not waiting for a command. His feet moved from the clinic like a machine pre-programmed for mission. "I'm going too," Rowan said, rising. She looked at Dr. Chen and her mother. "I'm the only one Rex follows without a leash. If anyone understands him, it's me." No one argued, because in that moment the look in her eyes was no longer that of a child. At the collapsed site, Rex transformed. No longer the silent guardian of kittens, he became the four-legged rescuer, nose to the ground, ears alert, body lowered, as if gliding across a battlefield. Rowan gripped Tom's hand, eyes locked on Rex's bold silhouette, moving through the dust and smoke rising from the shattered beams. Moments later, Rex stopped. A single bark, short, precise. "He's got it," Tom shouted. Down there, about 2 meters deep. The rescue crew began digging at Rex's direction. 20 minutes later, from beneath the debris, they pulled out a cage inside a mother rabbit shielding 4 trembling kits. Rex looked at them. A glance. A soft whimper. Like a familiar greeting. Back in Millbrook, as Rex returned to the clinic, the 3 kittens mewed immediately. They had memorized the sound of his steps, the scent of his presence. Rowan wrapped her arms around Rex's neck, whispering, "Today you made your choice, but it wasn't between going or staying. It was this, you can do both." Rex pressed his nose to Rowan's cheek, then turned to gently lick Hope's forehead. A family born in the space between darkness and light. News about Rex spread like wildfire in the dry season. Just 48 hours after the rescue of the baby rabbits from the rubble, Rex's name appeared on the front page of the local paper, then quickly made it onto the morning regional broadcast. The headline printed boldly on a red banner, "The Mysterious Dog and Little Rowan Millbrook's Heroes." At Riverside Animal Hospital, the phone rang non-stop. Some called to donate food. Others wanted to adopt the kittens. Even the New Hampshire State Animal Rescue Center reached out to ask whether Rex could assist in training a new rescue dog unit. But among all the calls, one message made Dr. Chen freeze. "I know that dog. I trained him once. He belonged to the Emergency Life Search Program. Don't lose track of him. I'm on my way to Millbrook." No name, no return number. But the signature at the end, R12 Echo, was enough to send a chill down the vet's spine. That night, Rowan sat quietly with Rex in the back room of the clinic. The 3 kittens were crawling all over him, as if he were the warmest and safest mountain on earth. Rowan rested her chin on her knees, watching him. "Where did you come from? Who taught you all this? How can a dog know when a kitten is hungry or when a mother rabbit is trapped and needs help?" Rex didn't answer, of course, but in his quiet, meditative eyes, it felt as though something longed to be told. Pain longing, or a secret bigger than she could comprehend. The next day, an armored SUV pulled up outside the clinic. A middle-aged man stepped out hard-faced, in a long khaki coat, carrying a suitcase marked with the Department of Homeland Security insignia. He didn't ask questions. He just looked at Rex. He was once Rex 12. Echo Unit, specially trained for post-earthquake and emergency attack search and rescue missions. But he disappeared after an accident in Montana. We thought he'd died. Rowan stood behind the door, fists clenched. He didn't die. He's alive. Here. With us. The man knelt. Rex's eyes followed his every move. No reaction. No fear. But no joy either. Only calm. "We want to bring him back," the man said. "Retrain him. Re-equip him. He could save hundreds more lives." Dr. Chen stayed silent. But it was Rowan who stepped forward. He's already saving lives, and he still is, but in his own way. Here he has a family. He has hope, faith, and courage. He doesn't need a uniform to be a hero. The whole room fell silent. Rex stood, walked over to Rowan, and gently rested his head on her lap. No barking. No growling. Just that simple gesture. The man nodded barely perceptibly. Perhaps he's already chosen. 2 days later, Millbrook held a small ceremony at the Central Park. No TV crews, no glittering medals, only a stone plaque raised beneath the old oak tree. Here, a big heart shielded 3 small souls. This is where a story began. And from that moment on, Rex was not just a dog, but a miracle of courage, sacrifice, and unconditional love. Rowan stood beside Rex as the crowd applauded. The 3 kittens, now sprightly and full of energy, darted around the ceremony platform, chasing each other like they'd never known a world without Rex's warmth. Late autumn afternoon, as the sun mellowed into amber streaks, scattered across the cobbled path, Rowan sat with Rex on the clinic steps, owned by her father. The 3 kittens, Hope, Faith, and Courage, were busy chasing a falling maple leaf, carefree, as if they had never known what sorrow meant. Rowan looked at Rex. "You know, if I could help other animals the way you did with the kittens, that would be amazing." Rex didn't reply, but his ears twitched a silent signal of agreement. That evening, the Blake family hosted a small dinner with Dr. Chen and Grandma Elena. When Rowan shared her idea of creating an animal rescue center, no one at the table laughed, even though it was a dream from an 8-year-old girl. Instead, Elena set down her chopsticks, eyes gleaming. Great things, Rowan, sometimes begin with just one kind act. You have Rex, and he has you. That's enough to start. The next morning, a call came in from the rescue station in a neighboring town. An abandoned house deep in the western woods was showing signs of collapse, and neighbors claimed they heard faint cries of puppies from within. No one dared go inside. Rowan didn't hesitate. She turned to her father, Dad. "I won't go alone. Rex will lead the way. And you'll be the one to heal them." David Blake, once a no-nonsense veterinarian, softened eyes gentle, like a student learning from his own child's courage. At the scene, they found a decaying wooden cabin, leaning dangerously, as if a single gust would bring it all down. But Rex didn't pause. He lowered his head, sniffed the ground, then ran along the left wall, guiding the rescue team to a small gap beside a fallen tree. From within came weak, muffled whimpers. Rex growled softly, then pushed in half his body, disappearing under broken boards. Everyone held their breath. 10 seconds. 20. Then Rex backed out gently, carrying a soaking wet golden-brown puppy, breathing faintly, but alive. 1 minute later, a second puppy, then a third. All three were wrapped in blankets, given IV fluids on site. And in the eyes of every witness, Rex was no longer just a stray dog. He was a hero. When word of the rescue spread, the mayor of Millbrook personally visited the clinic. She brought an envelope, a modest grant, but a meaningful one for the launch of a new initiative. We'll build a community-run animal care center, and Rex, if he agrees, will be its symbol. Rowan looked up at Rex. He exhaled softly, lay down, and gave a small tail wag, as if to say, "All right, let's begin." The center was built humbly at first, just a few clean wooden kennels, a small treatment room for injured animals, and a sign at the front gate. Rex's home, where kindness has no limits. Rex didn't need to speak, but with every step, every gentle lick to a newborn kitten, every nudge to comfort a frightened pup, he told the world, "It doesn't matter what species you are. If you need help, I'll be there." The wooden sign hanging outside the center still carried the scent of fresh paint. Rex's home, where kindness knows no boundaries. The people of Millbrook had a simpler, more affectionate name for it. Rex Station. No one needed an explanation why. Just one glimpse of Rex gently licking the wounds of a shivering kitten in the rain, or leading a group of volunteers across a muddy riverbank to search for a lost dog. And everyone understood. He's not just a dog. He's a soul. Within a month of the first rescue mission, Rex Station had taken in over 30 abandoned or emergency animals from surrounding towns. Not all of them survived, but the numbers didn't lie about the impact being made. Local newspapers began running headlines, "A dog leads the way to change in animal rescue." Millbrook, a beacon for the smallest souls. A video clip of Rex using his snout to gently nudge a kitten into an incubator went viral online. In just 48 hours, it garnered over 1 million views. The name Rex the Guardian became a phenomenon. A special emergency meeting was convened at the Millbrook Town Hall. The agenda: how to expand Rex Station and establish a regional animal rescue network. Dr. David Blake, Rowan's father, stood up holding a folder. "We need more transport vehicles, more incubation rooms, more medical support, and most importantly, a connected system, so no animal has to wait for life to reach them on the roadside." Everyone agreed. A portion of the community fund was approved, volunteer groups began signing up in shift, and most notably, the town declared Rex as the honorary rescue ambassador of Millbrook. He didn't wear a silver medal, but Rex had a new collar, a small metal tag engraved with the words "Use," the heart that never sleeps. Among the growing crowds visiting Rex Station, people started noticing the little girl who always walked beside Rex. She wore a purple hat, carried a backpack larger than herself, and always chatted with Rex like he was her longtime comrade. That girl was Rowan Blake, 8 years old, the one who saw what grown-ups had overlooked. The first to kneel beneath the old oak tree, face a creature seemingly fierce, and discover 3 trembling kittens. Rowan never called herself special, but to Rex, she was his anchor, the thread that connected him to the human world. The one who understood him not with words, but with heart. One early winter day, Dr. Blake received a letter from a veterinarian in a town 50 miles away. The message was brief. "We've heard about Rex. We have 6 abandoned puppies near the landfill. Roads are blocked. Our team can't reach them in time. If possible, please send Rex." It was the first time Rex was summoned as an emergency response unit. Rowan gently tied her purple scarf around Rex's neck and whispered this time, "You're going far. But don't forget back here, there are 3 kittens waiting. And there's me." Rex folded his ears for a moment, then raised his head high. The way he ran up onto the rescue truck made those watching swallow hard, not a shred of hesitation. Only the quiet determination of a being who chose to sacrifice to save other lives. As the vehicle rolled out of Millbrook, snow began to fall lightly. And someone said, "From now on, whenever an animal needs help, just say the name, Rex, and hope will come." 2 weeks later, in the town of Cedar Hollow, more than 70 miles from Millbrook, a historic flash flood had just passed. Roofs were stripped to bare wooden beams, fields torn apart, and the cries of dogs and cats echoed through the roar of excavators and human rescue calls. But under the split trunk of a pine tree at the corner of the Hillbridge farm, a living beehive was rescued not by a human, but by a black and gold-coated dog wearing a purple scarf around its neck, Rex. He appeared again like a benevolent phantom in the aftermath of destruction. At Rex Station, every time a report came in from a distant location, Tom Bradley, the retired veterinary officer now serving as the official coordinator of the Regional Animal Rescue Network, would pull out his map and mark the journey. On his desk was a large map dotted with red ink paw prints stretching from Millbrook all the way to the northern state border. He doesn't wander aimlessly. He chooses where he's needed. Every step is a declaration Tom would say, eyes fixed on the GPS screen, tracking Rex's signal. The Guardian response line had received over 150 calls in just 1 month. In Cedar Hollow, after 3 days of searching through rubble, the human rescue team was about to withdraw. That's when Rex led them to a makeshift bridge underpass, where 6 fluffy kittens, shivering from the cold, were hidden inside an old styrofoam box, dry and safe. No one knew how Rex found them, but people began whispering Rex doesn't just smell with his nose. He smells fear and hope. A little girl there, no more than 5 years old, drew a picture, a large dog shielding a group of kittens in a snowstorm. In the picture, he wore a purple scarf flying in the wind. The drawing was hung in the town library with a caption, "The Gatekeeper of Hope." Back in Millbrook, Rowan followed every one of Rex's journeys through her digital map. She wrote in her journal daily, noting the names of rescued animals, capturing her feelings, and illustrating each story from her perspective, like a tiny historian, chronicling a legendary odyssey. He's my best friend. But I know a true friendship doesn't hold someone back. It sends them out to save the world. Rowan began training other puppies at Rex Station, following the same model Rex had once been trained under. She created test exercises, emotional sensitivity, reaction to distress, sounds, cold endurance, and most importantly, the ability to care for other species. Unexpectedly, some of the pups started voluntarily caring for a litter of abandoned rabbits. One of them, a small dog named Milo, began following in Rex's paw prints, as if the journey was never meant for just one. Thus, the Guardian Network was born no longer just an idea, but a functioning system, with 6 satellite stations, each with a human-dog rescue pair. The Find Rex app allowing the community to report abandoned animals. The Kind Hearts education program in elementary schools, teaching children how to read animal body language and how to listen with compassion. Rex was no longer just a symbol. He was an inspiration, a force, the one who first lit the torch for a long chain of kind souls. No one knew where Rex would stop next. No one dared place limits on him anymore. But in every place he visited, People left behind a small wooden plaque engraved with a paw print. Underneath a simple line, "Rex was here." And there were children, other little Rowans, who touched those plaques and whispered to their parents, "When I grow up, I want to rescue like Rex too." 10 years after Rowan Blake first found a silent dog lying beneath the old oak tree, the town of Millbrook had transformed. People called it the town of kindness, not just for the monuments erected, but because compassion had become its way of life. And at the very heart of it stood the Rex Institute, the world's first interspecies animal rescue and humanitarian training academy. Rowan is now 18. No longer the little girl with the purple backpack and sparkling eyes. She is now the director of international humanitarian training programs and the official coordinator of the Guardian Global Network, spanning 12 countries. She still wears a leather collar, the old worn one that once belonged to Rex. On the back is engraved "Protect with Purpose, Love Without Boundary." In every training session, when young students ask, "Where did you learn to be like this?" Rowan simply smiles and gazes toward the bronze statue in the academy courtyard, a proud German shepherd shielding 3 kittens nestled beneath his belly. Rex passed away in the autumn of Rowan's 13th year, on a peaceful day in the garden behind her house, surrounded by the now elderly trio of cats. There were no tears, just stillness and a golden afternoon, as if the world itself wished to fall silent in farewell. News of Rex's death spread across media outlets, but no one called him a superdog or a legendary icon. They simply called him Rex, the friend who taught us how to love fully. In Rex's final year, Rowan and he co-authored the Interspecies Code of Compassion and Protection, a document now translated into 18 languages and nominated by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage asset. It wasn't a rule book. It was a way of living. Listen with patience. Protect without reward. Understand without language. Be present fully and truly. On the 10th anniversary of the Rex Institute's founding, students from over 30 countries gathered in Millbrook. During the ceremony, each person placed a small stone, engraved with "Thank you, Rex," along the path circling the monument. A young girl from Kenya said during the opening, "Where I grew up, no one believed dogs and cats could be a family. But Rex showed me that kindness goes far beyond what we've been told." On the final night of the festival, as fireworks lit up the sky over Millbrook, Rowan stood alone beneath the old oak, the very tree where she first met Rex. She placed her hand on the gnarled bark and whispered, "You never left, Rex. You're still here, in every street your paws once touched, in every heart you ever helped save." And inside me, from a distance, a young German shepherd, newly trained, ran toward her, tail wagging, wearing a purple scarf, now the global symbol of rescue teams. Rowan knelt down, touching the pup's head. "Come on, Valor. It's our turn now." Rex may have stopped, but the journey he began, a journey of unconditional love, of protection that transcends species, and of compassion turned into action, will carry on. And as long as there is someone out there who picks up a trembling little creature in the cold wind and holds it close to their heart, that flame will never go out. That is how a little girl named Rowan, a dog named Rex, and 3 tiny kittens sparked the beginning of an animal rescue program with national impact. From what seemed like an ordinary afternoon in the park, an entire community learned a priceless lesson about loyalty, sacrifice, and love without boundaries. Because sometimes the greatest things begin with a moment that feels accidental, and with a small, courageous heart like Rowan Blake's. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to tap the share it and help spread this love even further. And subscribe to our channel so you won't miss the next emotional journey, because tomorrow will bring you a story even more extraordinary. Stay with us, because kindness always finds its way home.